Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wizards of Dalal Street, the only show where you can interact with the most influential voices in Dalal Street. If Warren Buffett were to adopt a son in India, he would probably cast an eye towards my guest today. Values and valuation, wealth and wisdom have been hardwired into his vocabulary from childhood. In fact, the joke about him is that given a choice between reading a book on Warren Buffett or taking Aishwarya Rai out on a date, he would think about it. The joint managing director of Motilal Oswal Securities and a wizard of Dalal Street, Ramdev Agarwal. Ramdev, thanks for joining us today on the Wizards of Dalal Street.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this show.
Ramdev, you are a small town boy from Raipur. What attracted you to the stock market?
Actually, I came to do my chartered accountancy in Bombay, and I had no clue that I'll be ending up in stock market. I had just ambition to become a chartered accountant.
But you're a farmer's son.
Yeah, I'm a farmer's son, and we still till land in Chhattisgarh. But my brother, who was in Merchant Navy, because of whom I came to Bombay, and he was the guy who was funding my education here. He had a lot of surplus, and he wanted to invest that money in not in the stock market. He just wanted to invest. And we thought that why not try in the stock market. And right from that day, I thought I will invest it my way. So there had to be a massive steep learning curve. And I got into that entire game.
Here you're in 85, you don't know much about the market. What gave you the hubris to sense that you would invest it your way at that time?
No, it was not 1985, it was 1980. I was yet to become chartered accountant.
The Sensex was at 100 at that time, for reference sake.
Yes, I mean the Sensex was not there, the concept of Sensex was not there. But obviously the Sensex level was about 125 or something like that.
Right.
And all the textile mills, Kohinoor and Standard and Centuries, they were the forward A group stocks of Bombay Stock Exchange. I mean, they were really the bluest of blue chip of Indian stock market. And at that point of time, to your surprise and to my surprise, the first recommendation I got to invest in a stock was Kohinoor Mills. And I did buy 150 or 200 shares of Kohinoor Mills out of hard-earned savings of my brother. Can you imagine that? But somehow that at that time only this strike and other things got started, and I said, "Boy, this is not my cup of tea," and I got out of that. I think with some losses or something.
But it taught you a lesson to understand what you're investing in?
Yes, but incidentally, just about that time, I had bought a company called Cementation India.
Right.
I bought it 15 rupees, and in next 2 years it became 150 or 175 rupees. But so I developed liking for it. Maybe it is the chartered accountancy, the audits I was doing audits of a lot of large companies, Premier Automobiles, Century Textile. I had done audits of all of them. And somehow I had passion for reading balance sheet. So that passion and then the liking for the accounts, numbers, and this small magic in the stock market, when you buy something goes up, you can actually get a little more than what you put in. I mean, all these combinations started pulling me into the stock market.
So when your brother was sailing away, you were navigating the stock market at that time?
That's what you can say. I mean, it was very tough selling in rough waters.
It was tough to even open an account with the broker at that time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was very tough. And actually, I wanted to open an account with K.R. Choksi, Kisanatilal Choksi. And I mean, the whole account was so small, and I didn't have anybody to introduce me to him.
Correct.
So I ended up with a small broker in stock market.
Yes, but you started your own consulting firm with your partner?
Yeah, so what happened was I passed out formally my chartered accountancy in 83. Then I tried to set up my own so-called chartered accountancy practice. And I even incorporated a company called Ramdev Agarwal and Company Chartered Accountants. But my heart was never there. I tried to file tax returns for the guys, and I think all the returns must be wrong, whatever I filed, one or two.
Even though it was a very small market, the amount of money made there was very small at that time. You still had the bug.
Yeah, I mean, but excitement was quite massive in the sense that I think it was just about before that 85 boom, VP Singh and company.
Correct, the first big boom in India.
First big boom in India, and I mean, it didn't matter to us because we were so small, and the whole savings were maybe a few lakhs here and there. So, I mean, it was not a number which was important, it was that entire excitement of fluctuations, you know.
You were a kid in 85
Yes.
and no experience. In fact, you didn't know a stock market existed in Raipur.
Yes.
And suddenly you're thrown into Bombay.
Yeah.
And did you make mistakes? Did you earn money easily? What happened?
No, actually, I committed a whole lot of mistakes, and I always thought that I'm a smart and I can advise and I can read balance sheets. I read all the balance sheets under the belt, and I kind of did a lot of hard work, and But somehow in 1995 till about 95, 96, when I did my numbers back, I realized that except for making whatever money was there as a post-tax profit of broking operations, the portfolio was not reflecting much of gains per se. Though there were a lot of transactions and we bought into a lot of companies and we saw a lot of appreciation and depreciation, but on the whole, we didn't make money.
But you moved from this tangible assets, farming, to this intangible assets, holding a stock certificate. Was there any family problems, that father saying come back and till the land, or your brother saying join the Navy?
No, I mean, mine is a very big family, and it was always designed that I'm not going to go back to farming. In any case, I mean, farms are still there. In fact, one of the punishment of not passing CA would have been to go and kind of become a farmer.
Right.
Quite possible.
It was a strong incentive. We'll take a break. We'll come back, we'll chat some more with the wizard of Dalal Street, Ramdev Agarwal. Welcome back to the Wizards of Dalal Street. We are chatting with Ramdev Agarwal, Joint Managing Director of Motilal Oswal Securities. Ramdev, when did you hear the word Warren Buffett for the first time?
I think it was 1995 or 1996.
That late, Ramdev?
Yes.
You'd already been a phenomenon by that time.
I know, but somehow the news traveled to me much later. I mean, I had to go all the way to try every damn thing, and nothing worked. And then suddenly this thing came. A dear friend of mine, Sanjay Bhattacharya.
Right, Sanjay.
He said, Ramdev, this book is, I mean, you'll like it. That was the book which I read, and then I found that he's really mesmerizing. I mean, it was just about all the gaps I was missing, and suddenly somebody filled 80-90% of the gaps which I was having hunches or read here or there.
10 years into your professional career, you discovered Warren Buffett.
Yes.
Right? And what has he taught you? What are if I asked you for the 2 or 3 things that you've now learned from Warren, what would they be?
One of the things is that first thing which I learned and practiced also is to have a focused portfolio. I had 225 stocks in 1995. So I actually took help of my wife, because that time those papers were there, and every time it used to tend to slip from your hand, in the sense that if you go to sell 1,000, you'll end up selling 950, and 50 will remain as bad delivery.
Yeah, it was a paper-based system.
Yeah, so I made it sure that I get out of like 200 stocks, and I did get out of 200 stocks, and we were left with 25 stocks. And my target was that I'll go to 15 stocks, which never could be achieved.
But concentration, concentration like that comes from knowledge of what you're doing.
Yes.
But what did the knowledge come from?
Yeah, I mean, working around the company in much more focused way. If you have 225 companies, obviously your amount of time, in any case limited, would be so thoroughly fitted.
A day and a half to each company.
Yeah, so you just can't do a justice to that. So if you have 20-25 companies and you have a research department, I think at least you can track it properly. That was the whole idea. And I think even 25 is pretty large. If you like the way I manage the portfolio PMS for the outsiders, we have typically 10 to 12 companies. So I mean, the amount of time you spend on every stock, per se, the mind share, I mean, subconsciously, is far larger.
So concentrate your portfolio,
Yes.
and you can concentrate with the knowledge that you understand a
Yes.
particular business.
Yes.
What else have you learned from Warren?
That was one. Second is the difference between ROE and EPS. Earlier, the
ROE is return on equity, and
return on
EPS
equity
is earning per
and
share.
earning per share. I think the whole market is obsessed with the EPS. And earlier I used to think that EPS, given EPS and 15 or 20 times is what should be the fair price of the stock. And I mean, obviously that was not the formula to work in real life.
So if it come to 20, it would be a sell, and if it was at 15, it would be a buy.
Yeah, something like that. So the first, as a chartered accountant, one thing which really hit me big time was that don't focus on EPS, focus on return on net worth. I mean, that was the really starting point of understanding how the wealth is being created. So what happens is that if you're given a crore, you will make at 10% 10 lakhs. But if you're given 2 crores, obviously you will make 20 lakhs.
Because you have more capital to begin
Yeah,
with.
so just because you're making 20 rupees EPS, you don't become worth some 40 crores or something like that.
So any business that requires large amounts of capital is inherently inefficient over time.
Yes. So then I understood the financial value, so-called value. I got a sense that, boss, the value is not just EPS multiplied by 15 or 20. There is some method in this entire madness. There is some mathematics in the whole thing. Then I learned that intrinsic book value is what the management and the shareholders have put in, And intrinsic, then the search for intrinsic value started. What is this crazy thing called intrinsic value? Then